And so, Madam President, the floor is yours for moving through the agenda.
Okay. When we suspended, I think we were on communications by ministers, communications by senators, questions, answers to questions, presentation of petitions, appointment of select committees, reports of committees, first reading of bills, second reading and committal of bills. The chair recognizes Senator Bell.
Thank you, Madam President. No disrespect, just gave a portion. No disrespect is intended. It's, sometimes we not wanting to show disrespect, because Bahim is a very, very polite people on some issues, and Madam President, someone's wishing to be recognized. You say no disrespect, and then you think, well, if I do that, it'll disrespect them, but this is just compliance with basic norms that are required for all of our safety. Madam President, there's a compendium of 3 civil aviation bills that are before the Senate today, which were passed in the House of Assembly yesterday evening. It's the Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority Bill 2021. It's the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas Bill 2021. It is the Civil Aviation Bill of 2021. And so I will read and move the second reading in committal of one bill, and when we finish that bill off entirely and refer it to committee, I'll move the other 2 bills. But they will be debated as a compendium, as they all relate to basically the same undertaking. Madam President, I beg leave to move for the second reading and committal of a bill for an act to repeal and replace the Civil Aviation Act 2016 to modernize the regulation of civil aviation in the Bahamas in accordance with the Chicago Convention and for connected purposes. Madam President, these 3 bills, this is not the first time that we've had to go around the hobby horse racetrack on civil aviation bills. It seems that every 10 years or so, ICAO, the international organization that regulates civil aviation and implements and enforces the implementation of the Chicago Convention on International Civil Aviation, does a thorough review of their procedures. They factor in obvious errors from the previous period, and they come and when they assess you on the basis of their enhanced standards, so you're bound to fail. So I recall well during, I believe, the third Ingram administration, we had to go through this process of, and you see, the previous civil aviation bill is 2016. We had to go through this process of thoroughly updating the civil aviation laws to catch up with the changes that had been made by ICAO over the previous period before they did their assessment. So, I want to assure the former Minister of Transport, Lenisana Martin, that she may have read it wrong. Nobody's saying that she failed in any way. It's impossible to succeed, because what happens is ICAO is constantly updating, even though you've set the your laws to comply with what their last assessment said you need to do. And in the interregnum, between then and the next assessment, they're constantly updating their requirements, procedures, modalities, etc. And so when you come, you're bound to fail. Okay? That's the reality. And just as we were adversely assessed in the 2012 to 17 period, and we corrected and brought our laws up to date in 2016, we are now in the same process. And it is something that will go on, and members of the public, I know, you know, we talk about COVID fatigue, we have compliance fatigue too. And I know my colleagues have compliance fatigue because they'd rather pass legislation that is more socially proactive, etc. And so you see the pressure was brought. We brought in a new fisheries bill, and we're moving with other bills that are designed to improve the circumstances of ordinary Bahamians. But this is critically important because aviation is a vital sector of the Bahamian economy. It is vital that we have airports that are internationally recognized as being safe and compliant for both the tourism industry in New Providence, Grand Bahama, but also for the tourism industry throughout our far-flung, beautiful islands, keys, rocks, keys, and settlements. And so it is critically important that we do this, and in doing this, it will inure directly to the benefit of every Bahamian to have a robust and vibrant and modern civil aviation regulatory framework, and to have airports that are not condemned, etc. Now, there are many, many things going on in the civil aviation front. And we see that, for example, there is right now, as the Minnesota said yesterday, a very aggressive action plan for the redevelopment of 4 family island airports, particularly Exuma, and particularly at Deadman's Key, to create a port of entry and an international airport that is compliant internationally, that will allow, as occurs at Georgetown, the direct flights from international jurisdictions. And so those are the 2 in particular where the focus is, but there are 2 other airports that are also going to be substantially improved in this package. There is a financing arrangement that has been worked out, negotiated. There's some perhaps IDB contribution, and there's also a domestic financial arrangement that will allow Bahamian institutional and private investors to have a stake in the total redevelopment of the major airports in the Family Islands. And in particular, there has always been the dream of Georgetown, or the Rolltown Airport in Exuma, Mosstown Airport in Exuma, being called Georgetown because it's in proximity in any event, airport to be an international hub, but also a domestic hub. So that when the upgrades are made to that airport, when it is expanded, when the runways and the taxiways are repaved, regraded, expanded, and improved, because the idea is that they will be able to take heavier and heavier aircraft, which means that the base has to be improved on the runway to take the weight of the landing of such aircraft, that the entire island of Exuma will benefit from Exuma being a major hub internationally as well as domestically. And the minister is also engaging a situation where from that hub, local charter companies will be able to apply for and establish and get established routes, not just on a high basis, if you hire me, take me there, but to actually have established routes and timetables. In other words, becoming like regular service providers, and they will be placed into Bahamas Air's ticket ordering system. So anybody, and the international system, so anyone coming in from any flight is able to book their onward flight. Say if they're going from Georgetown and they want to go to Mayaguana, or if they may want to go to Atkins and Crooked Island to a bonefish lodge or a tourism facility in Inagua, they will be able internationally with their credit cards to book the entire flight going and coming without the need of stopping and then trying to hustle a charter somewhere. And so, and then of course, Long Island. The people of Long Island have suffered long and hard for decades They have always apparently been, they were in last place under members of opposite governments in the past. There was a time when, the road was paved, North Long Island, it stopped right in Thompson Bay. The light came all the way down North Long Island and stopped at Thompson's Bay. Fellas were anecdotally told, if you want a black road, every Long Islander will swear on the book, on the most holy book, that they heard those words themselves. I don't know that it's true. It's just an anecdote down in the South. And well, don't turn your back on the Union Jack, I think was the song. Yeah. The one I was hearing way back then was something about "Don't turn your back on the Union Jack." I think that was even a campaign slogan of the UBP in 1968, which met with a resounding defeat because at the end of the day, people must breathe free. But leaving that aside, all Bahamians need to breathe free, and this development of a major international airport in Deadman's Key, Long Island, will be a phenomenal, earth-shaking event. It will explode, if you will, in a positive way, the tourism potential of that great and beautiful island of Long Island, from which I descend on my mother's side. And I am very, very, very happy that we have taken this policy decision, and that over the course of the next several years and in the foreseeable future, the long-suffering people of the great island of Long Island will finally have an airport worthy of that island and its significant history in the Bahamas. And so I would like to commend the Minister for his vision and the government for its commitment to enable that to happen. One of the significant effects of this civil aviation bill will be, apart from complying with the international requirements as they have developed over the last since 2016, it's not that long, it's 25 years, will be that we are now putting in place the ability to set up an aircraft registry, so that just as we have the Bahamas Maritime Authority, which registers the cruise ships and the large merchant tankers around the world, we will also be able to enter that airspace, if you will, of competition in the area of aircraft registry. And then this is important, that a pillar of the domestic tourism economy is the second home ownership by high net worth individuals. You don't get room tax from it, but you get a lot of spending in the domestic economy for the purchases of goods and services, especially construction of homes, etc. And one of the privileges that we will be able to extend to that very large second homeowner community, which is stretched throughout the Bahamas, from Abaco in the north to Inagua in the south, that we'll be able to extend to them the ability to have their means of transportation, particularly for the very high net worth individuals, registered here in the Bahamas where they live and have their second homes. This will also produce new revenue streams for the government. Of course, I believe under the Chicago Convention, these revenue streams would have to be used for civil aviation type purposes, but we'll see how that works. You will note that the second bill is the Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority bill, and one of the requirements now is that the whole of civil aviation, be broken into independent parts. The reason being that certain things, it is critical that they are independently done, as opposed to being part of one overarching bureaucracy where there may be undue influence, either from the civil aviation sector, to the air accident investigators, or from the political directorate. Now, some things have happened in terms of the investigation of air navigation over the past 6 or 7 years that have caused the ICAO to form this view that you have to have separate independent entities conducting separate and offering separate and independent services. And one would know that there were a number of notorious plane crashes over the last several years. And the question is whether they detected some kind of undue influence, perhaps some kind of political pressure being exerted. And so the effort has now focused. And so colleagues would recall that sometime last year we passed a separate Air Accident Investigation Authority Act in this place, which creates a totally independent, standalone Air Accident Investigation Authority. Similarly, in the Civil Aviation Act, we see that we have the creation now of the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas to distinguish it from the previous Civil Aviation Authority. And in this compendium is a Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority Bill 2021. This bill will create a separate air navigation authority. And this is again a part of the overall scenario of separating people from other agencies doing the same things where perhaps undue influence could be brought to bear in terms of how decisions are taken in important matters. So the Air Navigation Authority, of course, will deal with all matters concerning any airline entering Bahamian airspace. And in fact, this is going to be the entity that will receive overflight fees in short order. And there are other proposals for other ways to monetize this entity that are being considered. Well, the idea would be that this entity would be the receptor of all aeronautical services that are provided to planes flying over or through Bahamian airspace. Okay, once you overfly the Bahamas, there will be certain things that will be available at a cost, and there will be the overflight fees which go straight to the government through the Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority bill. I might understand that the regular mics are working. Not yet? Okay. Madam President, these being the case, I think that we can all comfortably support these bills. And I would just like to say one thing just as I close, not related to these bills, before I move for the seconder, make way for the seconder. I see in the paper today a United States report about perceived corruption in procurement. Persons who are American companies who may have been bidding on certain contracts are unhappy with the result. And I want to say this straight up, that if anybody has any complaint of perceived any evidence of actual or potential corruption, they need only to forward that to the Director of Public Prosecutions of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and any such allegations will be thoroughly and properly and independently investigated under his direction. I want to assure the Bahamian people, it's easy for someone to say, I perceive something because I didn't get it. But if there is the slightest shred of evidence, I urge anybody, whether they be Bahamian or American, I think the report was relating to some American companies claiming they perceive corruption. Well, if there's the slightest shred of any such information, you are invited to provide the same to the Director of Public Prosecutions, who will then initiate the investigators by those who are trained in the investigation of such matters. On that note, Madam President, let me say that I move the bill be read a second time and committed, and I hope that I can obtain a seconder. Thank you, Madam President. We're going to need some.
That's as far as I can reach. Okay, that's my place. Sorry. All right. Madam President, good morning. I rise, first of all, to second the compendium of bills, aviation laws. I'm going to do a mic check to make sure. We're good, no fun. Right. Again, Madam President, just for those listening, good morning, Madam President, colleagues, and fellow Bahamians. I rise to lend my voice to the compendium of aviation bills this morning. And I will begin by giving God thanks once again for keeping us safe. I also want to go on record today and share the new addition to our family. My second brother would have had a daughter earlier this morning. So we have another Henfield. Gemma Henfield is her name. So welcome to the family. That's the chef. So the chef has had a daughter. The chef is a bad man. It's going to be, yeah. So congratulations to my brother Jamal. My parents are excited. It's now 4 granddaughters, no boys. No boys. It ain't too late for me, you know. I am 41. I told my wife about 2 weeks ago that I'd seen a picture of a bedroom with 2 bunk beds. And I said, my sons would like that room. And my wife replied, you must mean those Rottweiler puppies outside. So I think she put me in my place, and that's the end of that. So I'm content with having daughters. But seriously, to today's debate, Madam President, this ought to be a non-contentious debate today. And it ought to be non-contentious for 2 reasons. One, the undisputable fact before us is that the UN body, ICAO, audited the Bahamas and reported that the Bahamas' safety oversight score fell from 58 to 31.98. Now, this is a major concern with implications for service providers, which is our airlines that come to our jurisdiction, and for the nearly 2 million tourists annually, when things were good pre-COVID, that would come to our islands by aircraft. It also has implications for our soon-to-be successful aviation registry. Secondly, today's debate ought to be non-contentious because Bahamians don't care who's in power when these issues arise. Their only concern is that they want the issues addressed and resolved. I have repeatedly said over the last 4 years in this place, Madam President, that here in the Bahamas, we have no shortage of laws. We do fall down, unfortunately, when it comes to the implementation, the enforcement, the training, and the equipping of those persons tasked with carrying out their jobs. So today, collectively, as parliamentarians, all of the senators, we ought to be, and I'm sure we are, on the same page. But we all meet to make structural changes to a vital sector of our country. Some of you may know there's an attorney in this country by the name of Llewellyn Boyer Cartwright. I can remember back in 2002, I was heading off to do the bar exam in England, and I would have learned of this attorney who specialized in aviation law. And at the time, I was, as a summer student at Lennox Payton, I always remember one of the reasons why I was offered the job to come back was because of my interests in aviation and maritime law at the time. Now, one of the things that stood out to me back in 2002 is that every time a plane flew over the Bahamas in our airspace, in a sovereign country, we didn't get $1 for that. Every time a plane flew over this country, to this day, as a matter of fact, it's 2021, and that was in 2002. And if we all go outside any time of the day, there are endless jets flying over this country from Europe, Canada, North America, South America, the Caribbean. And that's our airspace. We own that. But we don't receive $1 from it. In fact, the FAA manages 75% of our airspace. Cuba, the other 25%. It's not as if the Bahamas manages the other 25%. The FAA manages 75% of the Bahamian airspace, and Cuba manages the other 25%. We don't receive $1. I read a report sometime back, it had to be in the last year, that between 2006, Madam President, and 2017, the FAA would have collected some $850+ million in fees for airlines flying in our airspace. 850-something million dollars. And in fact, in 2016 alone, they had collected over 115 million that year. So I welcome this bill, these bills, the compendium of bills, because one of the major structural changes we will see in aviation is the fact that we look to manage our own airspace and collect those fees ourselves. So many of us in this country are always trying to find ways to see an increase in our revenue without taxing our people. And this is one right here. You know, and I give credit where credit is due. I do recall back in January of 2017 that we would have had a major success as a country at that time by the previous administration in getting something as simple as an exemption from Bahamian Airlines paying fees to fly in and out of the Bahamas. And that was commendable then. And today we see another administration doing more for us in the aviation industry. So we are making way for an enhanced aircraft registry with these legislation and the charging of air navigation services fees, such as those overflight fees, which is one and commendable. Two, we are making way for the Bahamas Search and Rescue Coordination Center with global industry standards being in place. And thirdly, we are correcting an oversight in that the regulator can't regulate a service provider if it's a part of the same entity. And for those of us in law, we always ask that question, who will guard the guards? And so today we are correcting an oversight in that the regulator can't regulate effectively a service provider if it is a part of that same entity. So with those brief words, Madam President, we are all on the same page. We are trying to fix a major vital sector and issue in our country. And I commend the government and the opposition for all that has been done for aviation in recent years. And it's always good to see the Bahamas move to a point where we exert more control and independence over those things that concern us. So with those brief words, I support Madam President. I second the bill.
AG, let me sanitize.
Would you speak? Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Send this.
No, you just sanitize it. I'll sanitize it before it comes back to you.
It's been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to repeal and replace the Civil Aviation Act 2016 to modernize the regulation of civil aviation in the Bahamas in accordance with the Chicago Convention and for connected purposes. As many, Chair recognizes Senator Darville.
Hold on, right here.
Thank you so much, AG. I too would like to say a few words as it relates to the three bills before us today. I had an opportunity to look at them very closely, and I can distinctly remember in the former administration when the former Minister of Aviation and Transport and Aviation played an intricate role in us putting legislation in place to meet the requirements for the Chicago Convention as well as ICAO. And so, as Senator Henfield spoke about the benefits of our airspace, we'd like to once again put on record that under the former administration, we worked very diligently against many odds to ensure that that asset and the revenue that could potentially be derived from that asset was manifested. Subsequently, we passed the baton on to this administration, and the Minister of Tourism and Aviation, like any other minister who sit in that position, will have to work diligently to comply with the Chicago Convention as well as ICAO standards to ensure that our tourism sector is protected and aircrafts that operate in our airspace are not only regulated effectively, but also safety. And like the AG has said, we've had some instances with accidents, aviation accidents, that some of them actually are still under investigation. But we need to ensure that safety is of paramount concern in our traveling inter-island as well as internationally. I can distinctly remember sometime, I think a year or two ago, where an aircraft, I think, was coming somewhere from the southern part of South America or the Caribbean and had a problem and subsequently had to land in Nassau at the Lynden Pinden International Airport. And so we must be prepared, and we must have the regulatory regime in place to ensure that we are able to deal with situations like that internationally as well as domestic. My concern is that there's a variety of amendments that is before us today. From what I understand, the majority of them appear to be mainly typographical errors. And I'm certain that we are able to work it out because I think these bills are so important, not only to the aviation industry, but also to our tourism sector that needs to be resorted and solved. And I think on the AG, on your wrap-up, could you please explain some of the amendments? I think there's an amendment to Clause 5, 22, 26, 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 45, and 60. And I need a little bit more clarification on that. I don't mean to be confrontational with it, but we on this side would like to know exactly what they mean so that we will be able to make reference to them and be able to speak specifically to these proposed amendments. Once again, Madam President, I support the bills. I realize that they're non-contentious, and it's not a matter of pointing finger at the former Minister of Transport and Aviation and saying this, or that. The reality is things are moving at a warp speed, and the Bahamas must comply. And so any government that is in place must comply with the Chicago Convention and ICAO requests to ensure that safety as well as the ability for aircrafts to operate in our airspace is concluded, and we are able to gain revenue as a direct result of aircrafts flying over our airspace and those who are in our airspace. So with those few words, I thank you, and I personally support the three bills and the work that the Minister of Tourism and Aviation must do, like any other minister who was in place, and must comply with ICAO standards. Thank you. I know Senator Mitchell is my colleague, but he needs to strategize too. Yeah. No, nothing, man. Good things.
It may be me.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to start a bit off topic, if I may, and if you indulge me with this, because it's something that I think needs to be brought to the attention of the public. It's probably a cultural issue. And this has to do with an accident, I call it that an incident that happened on Sunday to a friend of mine who was attending church. And after leaving church, after coming out of church on Sunday to go and collect something from his car, in the yard next door, the fence was breached and there were 3 pit bulls. The pit bulls set upon to attack him. In trying to escape, he jumped to the top of his car. The dogs followed him to the top of his car. And in trying to escape, he jumped down from the car and ended up breaking his kneecap. So now he's not working for 18 days. He'll be off and has to have surgery once that is done. And so who knows how long that will be. I just brought this story because the country, people walk in the mornings. And I noticed particularly women carrying these big sticks in their hands as they go along the streets. And I've tried in many of the islands that I go to say to the administrators that there's a need, in my view, to do some form of public education about people and dogs. And the law says that if you have a yard which is not enclosed, the dog must be tethered or tied. But routinely you find that when you're walking along the streets, people have unfenced yards and dogs are charging out at every direction. And one morning I was walking along the Montague foreshore, and there is a lady, and her dog is walking, huge dog, walking on the side of her. So I crossed to the other side of the street, and she said, "Oh, the dog's not going to bother you. You know, like they've got rubber teeth." Right? And that's not really the point. The point is that if you are walking with your dog in the streets, the law says the dog should be tethered or tied to you so that you have control of it. And similarly, if you have a yard which is unfenced, the dog needs to be tied. And that's just one example of people disrespect the feelings of other people with regard to animals. You can't assume that everybody either gets along. Some people have a very, very phobia, a great phobia about animals. So you have to be very careful with it. So I just wanted to mention that before getting into that, just to say, by way of public education, there is a need for people to understand that the law requires you to tether the dogs if you have an unfenced yard, and if you're walking in the streets, to have the dog tied to you so it's under control. On the 8th of November 2019, a young man, 34 years of age, a pilot of some experience, who is the son of Agnes Ferguson, and who's a former broadcaster, and her husband, who was a deputy director of the Department of Environmental Health, was traveling at around 7:30 or so out of West Palm Beach. And the flight was uneventful, according to the records, up until 2.3 nautical miles away from the Lynden Pindling Airport. At that point, he sent out an alarm that there was an engine problem. And a few minutes later, the plane disappeared from radar and is assumed to have crashed in the water. An alarm was sent out, and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force went to the rescue, search and rescue, and found what they thought was wreckage from the plane. They searched until 2 o'clock the next morning, but stopped the search and came back at 6 a.m. and all the wreckage which they thought they had found had disappeared. This caused an enormous upset to the family, because they thought that had the search continued through the morning, they may have discovered him or rescued him. And you would know, Madam President, that there was also a lot of discussion in the public domain about whether or not our regulatory bodies, or in this case, the search and rescue capability of the country, was such that it could deal with these kinds of emergencies. The family, on celebrating or on marking the first anniversary of his passing in 2020, appealed to the authorities for some movement to upgrade our capacity to deal with incidents of this kind. And so I'm certain that there are other families, the family in Andros that lost, they were lost in a plane crash in some bad weather a year, within the next year or so. After that, will all welcome this improvement in the regulatory capacity of the country to deal with search and rescue. And I know as foreign minister, when I was foreign minister, that one of the sticking points in all the negotiations that the then Minister of Transport, and I thank her for all of the patient work which she did in trying to move this project along, Glenys Hannah Martin, was the Americans and their view that the country did not have the capacity to deal with search and rescue. And one of the things they kept saying is, if you are going to take over the management of your airspace, you have to have the capacity for search and rescue. Now, I think I saw a report that says under this administration, there's now an agreement signed between the two countries, which allows search and rescue to be conducted by the United States government as they continue to manage the airspace. But as you would know, with all of the overflight that's going on, if there's a major incident in this country, the search and rescue capability would be huge. You just see what happened with the 737 that went down, I believe, in Indonesia a couple of weeks ago. What the resources you have to put into search and rescue. And I say that because an American diplomat was speaking to me once, and I had this habit because they would have 12 demarches a week. And so one morning he came to see me, and I was breathing hard, and I said, now, what is it this morning? Because every time they showed up, there's always something that the Bahamas wasn't doing right. And he said, your country wanted to be independent. And an independent country has certain responsibilities. So now that you're independent, you can't complain when we complain that the standards, as far as we can tell, are not meeting world standards. So I said, fair enough. Annoyed, though I was. And so it again is another marker, another reason why we have to meet these world standards. But the underlying complaint I'm seeking to identify is that every time you put in place these new measures, you are essentially, when you look at these three measures, you're creating three new bureaucracies, three new agencies. You need people to populate those agencies. You got to pay them. Their salaries aren't cheap. The expertise is not cheap. And it would be interesting for us to be able to cost out what this all means for our country going forward, and it has to be maintained. And the second thing the Americans used to always criticize us for is they said, Bahamians don't have a systemic lack of appreciation for security concerns. And this was their fancy way of saying that you can put in place these measures, but unless you do not enforce them and keep them going, you run into problems. When we were debating the bill that was supposed to stop the honorable leader for the government side said this was supposed to stop the road from being churned up and opened up without permission, and it was supposed to be restored. As I was dropping in a hole this morning along the Eastern Road, I wondered what happened to the bill that was supposed to resolve this problem. And the point I'm making here is that, yes, you can pass any bill you like, but the question is it actually carried out? Do we have the will to actually carry it out? So I hope that's what happens in this case. So there are even now though a number of issues that I'd like to highlight, and one of them has to do with private charters, whether the regulatory bodies which exist now are doing what they're supposed to do to ensure that the flying public is safe as they fly on these private charters. It just seems, observationally, it just seems a little too casual to me. So I would just bring that point. But more importantly, to the actual scheduled and commercial airlines, we, because of the archipelagic nature of our country, are on planes all the time, going through airports. And I've got to tell you, as a consumer of flight services in this country, one of the most annoying issues is the inability of these airlines to leave on time, and to leave, or more importantly, to leave when they say they're going to leave. So you can book yourself on a plane. The schedule says it's supposed to leave at 6 o'clock or 6:15. And you can be sitting in the airport at 7:30 a.m., no action taken, no announcement, and you're sitting in the airport having paid for a flight that is supposed to depart at 7 or 6 o'clock. Exactly. And there just seems to be no concern whatsoever for this. People are often on tight time schedules. You expect, for example, to hold a breakfast meeting perhaps in Grand Bahama and get back at lunchtime. So a 1 hour delay or a 2 hour delay actually ruins the ability for that businessman or that individual to do the business. And I wonder who is actually in charge of that process, about the actual delivery of services to consumers when they are on these airlines, scheduled airlines. And the reason I mention that is because I say to myself, if they are slack with time in that way, what are they doing with maintenance? Because one might be bleeding into the next. If you have a casual view about delivering a service to the public on time, are you actually doing the maintenance which is required to keep the aircraft in the air? So all of these things, I want to use this as an opportunity to say these are concerns which consumers have. As for specific airports, I said right after the 2017 general election to the people of Long Island, our supporters there, and we do have supporters in Long Island, notwithstanding the myths to the contrary. I said, no, more than a handful. And they said to them, look, you've got your government now. You have 35 seats, and we have 4. So tell them, don't come with any excuses this time. Get your airport. And if you don't get your airport, then you know what to do. No excuses. Well, that's another issue. You still know what to do, because, from the reports we hear, I would just say this without ascribing it to any individual. Someone ought to be careful about self-dealing. There's a lot of noise in Long Island about that. A lot of noise. No, I'm not gonna have a chat with anybody. I just say, carry on smartly. While you have your opportunity. No, sir. I wouldn't say any more than that. Be very careful about self-dealing. Be very careful about self-dealing. That's all I say. Very careful. The other thing I'd like to mention is the London Piddling International Airport. One of the things I admire about the United States, Madam President, is that every time you go to the U.S., there's always some public construction going on. I mean, have you ever gone to the Miami International Airport and not see, I mean, it's just constant building, constant building. Of course, this is what causes the economy to keep turning over. And so it just seems to me that the Lyndon Pindling Airport, apart from its shine, sort of, it's getting a little dull now. You're seeing rust spots around the place, and the door's not working properly, and the bathroom's not quite what they should be. I mean, so my view is it's time now to upgrade, expand, refurbish, whatever you want to call the Lyndon Pindling Airport. With regard to the other airports in the Family Islands, I want to start with Exuma. Sometimes there's a value in reviewing projects. We tried to tell this administration when we first got in that given the way public procurement works and allocations work, our experience was that from the time the cabinet made a decision to build something to the time the first shovel got in the ground, usually about 2 years. So when you come in and you talk about stopping projects, you are creating a problem if you try to get that thing started up again. Because the ship of state, as I see it, is like one of these big ocean liners. It takes a while to put the brakes on, and then to get it revved up again takes a while. So here we are now in year 4, you may as well say. And these projects that could have been done from year 1, because the money had been allocated, the designs had been done, there was no issue. Right. So here we are now in year 4, at the end of your term, just trying to get these projects started. And I wish you luck. I wish you luck. But, the difficulties are legion. But what I do want to say, Madam President, is this. There are existing vendors, I'll put it that way, or tenants of the Morristown Airport. And by the way, I hope one day that airport is renamed after George Smith. But that aside, the tenants, 2 of them, one of them, Kermit Roll's place. Kermit Roll was one of the pioneers of businesses at the airport, from the old Georgetown Airport to now this airport. Kermit Road. The place is called Kermit's, and there's a restaurant there. There's also a good businessman, notwithstanding, all right, good businessman. All right. And then you have Granville Ferguson, who runs airport rental. These people have had significant business presences at the airport. And what we tend to do when something new comes along is we tend to write out the people who've been there and invested. So my plea, my point at this point is to ensure that these Bahamians, when that new airport is developed, are not written out of the new airport, but their work is incorporated in the new airport. And I say that because we have the experience of what happened at the Lyndon Pindling International Airport when that transfer took place to the new company that existed. As for Freeport, I'm happy to see that the minister in his statements yesterday was talking about what's going to happen in Freeport. But I must tell you that 18, 19 months after the hurricane, that airport is simply a disgrace. There is no airport. I mean, you remember all this fuss they talked about my entry into the Bahamas coming from West Palm Beach a few months ago? I landed in airport, and they have immigration in tents, in a tent. So you cannot tell at that airport whether there's an international arrival or a domestic arrival. You just can't tell. So the charter lands, and I get off the plane. Some men pull up in a truck, and they say, "Hey, Mr. Mitchell, good to see you. Jump in." So we jump in the truck. They say, "You got any luggage?" No, I don't have any luggage. So, and they're driving me out the gate. Say, where your car is? So I say, "My car is right outside the gate." I say, "But you know, I came from West Palm Beach." They said, "Oh, yeah. Well, I guess we better stop at immigration day." welcome to the Bahamas. But that's and I can tell you that the immigration officers, I've spoken to them, are really exercised about the state and condition of that airport, or the lack of conditions of that airport. And from what I could tell, after 18 months, you could have just put the same facility you had there, just repair the facility. And what Grand Bahamians can't understand is, why would you not force the Grand Bahama Port Authority and Hutchison to live up to their obligation to provide an airport for the country, for the island? You know, it's just ludicrous that these people are allowed to get away with this. You know, do something. You know, and then it appears that, you know, their view is we can collect the insurance, and then we're going to give it to the government after we collect the insurance, and leave it to the government to have to sell it to the government, which is the same fast one they pulled on us with the hotel out on the beach. You know, collect the insurance, then say, "I can sell it to you for $65 million," and we do that, right? So it just seems to me that the people of Freeport need an airport, and the work should be done to get that airport up and functioning. In my view, there's no reason at this point to have any. I mean, perhaps you need a new design. Perhaps you need to build it up higher than it is. But in 18 months, people should not be still in sheds, processing themselves in and out of the country. It doesn't give an impression to people arriving, and it doesn't give the security concerns that you're seeking to address here, and the safety concerns here. Certainly, you wouldn't get a good impression by going to that airport in Grand Bahama. So it seems to me there is a need for that airport to be put in place. I would also add, as regards the talk about the treatment of Long Island by the Progressive Liberal Party, that the water, notwithstanding all of the past history, the Progressive Liberal Party did do work for the people of South Long Island. Did do work for the people of South Long Island. Yes, right. The water was put there when Bradley Roberts was the Minister of Works. And so I understand. But I understand, but we have a similar story. Is the water is now being expanded, and the settlements of McCanns and Millers are being left out of water. Why? If you're complaining about the road stopping at Thompson Bay and the power stopping at Thompson Bay, why would the people of Millers and McCanns not get water? Why? No, they jumped over it. They jumped over it. I'm telling you, the two settlements are between the South and the North. They jumped over those two settlements. I wonder who lives in those settlements, or what happened. You know, why they can't have water. Yeah. So, you know, yes, please. And when you get your report, let me know what the reason is. You know, when you get your report. Yes, right. The rock must be pretty hard when it reached McCann's and Millers. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I'm sure there's plenty of acrimony to go around with this, but there is no. There's never a bad time to start to be fair. And the Progressive Liberal Party is committed to all Bahamians, whether you're from Long Island or from Abaco or from New Providence. Some of our own supporters are saying, because of the political outturn in Long Island, why are you going down there, spending time in there? You know you can't. There's no fertile ground there. And I said, look at Kentucky Fried Chicken, Burger King, and McDonald's and Wendy's. Why are they always in a cluster? They're in a cluster because if you have a Wendy's up in Mackey Street and you have no Wendy's in Carmichael Road, and there's a Burger King, when the people from Carmichael Road pass that Burger King, headed to Wendy's in Mackey Street, they may say one day, let me try this Burger King. And the next thing you know, you've lost your customer. So Wendy's has to protect their market by putting a Wendy's next to Burger King to keep their customers. And then secondly, the other thing is that, Bahamians move around. And so people who are in Deadman's Key and Clarencetown, egg be in Deadman's Key and Clarencetown all their lives. They may be in Nassau one day. So you need to capture them while they're there and make sure that you have your supporters. And secondly, there's a need to take care of people across the country because, including Long Island, because there are people who are your voters and supporters in Nassau whose parents, grandparents, grandchildren, nephews, nieces live in Long Island. If you mistreat them, what do you think is going to happen to you here in Nassau? So you got to do all those things just for practical reasons, apart from just the general thing that you have a duty, an obligation, and responsibility to work for all of the people, regardless of where they are. We have no issues, therefore, philosophically with this. Those observations are simply made to assist in the execution and development of public policy. And we hope that as this unfolds, that we keep our shoulders to the wheel and that the country is able to benefit from the legislation which is being passed here today. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you very much, Madam President. So it's only when we are on good terms that I call it so. When we're not on good terms. No, I would like firstly, Madam President, to congratulate all senators on the quality of their deliberations and their statements here today. There are a few issues. The long period between the devastation of Hurricane Dorian and today, more than a year, and how that relates to the acquisition of the Grand Bahama International Airport has been very vexing for the government. You have a situation where the international airport in Freeport is owned by two private sector entities, neither of whom had any interest in restoring the airport, although there is a commitment to provide an international airport in the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. But everybody just walked away. The Bahamas government had to go through very intense negotiations, and they took time. Negotiations because not only is it simply the issue of the acquisition, it's the issue of, there was issues such as the issue of the entitlements of the employees at that site, many issues associated with that, and issues also about certain other matters that have now been, I'm happy to say, thoroughly resolved. Issues of sovereignty. Okay, the Bahamas government is a sovereign entity, and if it's going to take real property, the question is in what guise and what capacity. So we've determined that the government would purchase the airport in a special purpose vehicle. But these all raised issues that had to be negotiated, and I'm happy to announce that we've reached a point where we are, what they say in law, ad idem, and all points of differences have been resolved, and that the Bahamian people can confidently look forward to moving. And Freeport Airport is one of the four, as I understand it. So we will start to see immediately the beginning of the investments in the upgrade, repair, reinstatement of facilities. But, to reinstate on a permanent basis, having regard to the location, you're going to need a berm of at least 10 feet high, to cover the entire airport terminal area and any parking, etc. facilities. In terms of the entire capacity of the runways will have to be raised because at spring tide, you have flooding over the runways. So there are many things that need to be done. The people of the great island of Grand Bahama can accept the firm commitment of this government to push forward and to restore Freeport to its former glories. And an essential and critical part of that will be the restoration of an airport that is more resilient, more resistant to the adverse effects of climate change, and that will better serve the needs of the people of Freeport. I assure you, leader opposite, I know the Rule family extremely well. I've known them most of my life. I have nothing but respect for Kermit, although we used to go head up in the 80s. Okay, he was always my friend, Kermit Rule, and I always respected his business acumen, and I'm sure that that prominent exhumian family will not in any way suffer, but others will be allowed to also benefit in expanded facilities. So you won't have any one or two car rental companies. Others will be able to come in. That's just the nature of growth. The expanded facilities creates opportunities for more persons to also enjoy the benefits. So that is what we hope for the Georgetown Airport at Morristown, that not only will it be a major hub, but that it will create economic opportunities for scores and scores of Bahamians. And with regard to the issue of certainly the project to develop the Long Island Airport was not on the drawing board of the former government. If so, it was only in the most elementary stages, okay? So I won't say that it wasn't, but I know we gave a commitment directly to address this issue, and we are now addressing it. We've lined up the financing. We have the facility. We have the plans. We have all things that are being put in place that are going to enable Long Island to see in Dedmanski, the international airport, Long Island International Airport at Dedmanski, until we find a proper name. And I say that historically, having regard, yes, Henry Taylor was a pivotal person in Bahamian history. So was Jimmy Knowles. I'm not going to take away from the fellow who served as their MP for most of his adult life. So there are possibilities to honor all the sons of Long Island who have made those sorts of commitments. And coming back to the airport at Morristown, Georgetown Airport, my candidate is Pompey. The Pompey International Airport at Georgetown, Exuma. The first man to stand up and fight for his freedom in the Bahamas. And he took the blow, but he never bowed his head. I say Pompey International Airport. Now, I noted the comments about certain deficiencies in terms of perceived deficiencies in terms of search and rescue, etc. The whole strategy behind the creation of an independent air accident investigation authority, a separate civil aviation Bahamas authority, a separate air navigation services authority, is for people to be able to focus on their core mission, as opposed to being within some broad overarching bureaucracy that may have conflicting interests as between different undertakings. And that is the reason why we opted to form a separate air accident investigation authorities, and why ICAO is insisting on the splitting up of authorities so that people will have the ability to focus on the one job they have to do. So yes, I anticipate that whatever perceived deficiencies there were in terms of air search and rescue and other issues associated with that that with persons whose job it is now, sole job is to do this, you will have the kind of focus that will prevent any such perceived weaknesses are ever arising in the future. Let me just address this question of the list of very minor technical amendments. Essentially, in this bill, it appears that the draftspersons were struggling, Madam, were struggling between this concept of objection and appeal. There are two remedies for somebody who receives an adverse decision, particularly about, for example, you're speaking about the regulation of charter airlines, whether or not their air documents, the documents that they would need in order for them to run a service, have been revoked. If they're revoked by the director or in some way limited, the person has the right to object, first of all, under Section 34. And if the objection to the authority isn't, he doesn't get the right result that he wants, he may then appeal under Section 44 to the Director of Civil Aviation directly. So 9 out of 10 of these things are just to correct that simple error because they were struggling, I think, between these concepts. And that was a matter that wasn't clarified until rather late, and these bills had been tabled already, and that is the essence of the changes. And then at the bottom, the last one was simply the failure to include the number of the statutory instrument, so that has been clarified. So there are no, in other words, these are technical amendments and no substantial change has been made to any of the provisions of the Act. It is simply to correct this slight, it was an unreconciled, I won't say confusion, but it was an unreconciled situation, this issue of where to object and where the objection fell and where the appeal lay. And that has now been clarified by 9/10 of these. So the Act has been amended wherever there's an issue of objection or delay. Okay? And there was one clause where the system generated an error notice, and that by just oversight it was left in, an error notice, and that has to be deleted. You see the balance of the amendment there speaks to objections and appeals. Okay? So the essence is there's only one issue that really kind of, I think, got a little confused in the minds of the draftspersons. I want to show you. These bills, despite these here, were extensively reviewed and consulted on with the public, with consultants, with lawyers skilled in aviation law, and by a team assembled by the minister. So let me just close by commending the Honorable Denise Diagia, the Minister for Tourism and Aviation. That same passion and excitement that you would see in his public presentations in Parliament all the time. I can assure you, he sits in cabinet and he is just a dynamo of energy. But he's a dynamo of focused energy. He has managed in this space of 2 short years to thoroughly reform aviation in the Bahamas. Prior to COVID, he had splendid results in his tourism product, in our tourism product. And I think that I've never seen a less political person in my life, but someone who is not political, but he's always driven by the heart and by the economics of a situation. So I commend Dionisia Diagia, the Minister of Tourism and Aviation, on a job very, very well done on behalf of the Bahamian people. Thank you. Madam President, I now move that the question now be put, that the bill be read a second time and committed. If I may obtain a seconder. We got the second already. Okay, question now be put. That's right.
As many as are in favor that the bill be read a second time and committed, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a second time. Further second readings.
Yes, Madam President. I now beg leave to move for the second reading of a bill for an act to establish a separate Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority with its functions and composition. If I may obtain a second, that it be read a second time and committed.
It's been moved and seconded that a bill to establish a second Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority with its functions and composition be read a second time and committed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a second time.
That's the back one. You'll have to go through the committee stages. And the other bill as well. Thank you. For the second readings.
For the second reading.
Thank you, Madam President. I now beg leave to move that a bill for an act to provide for the continuation of the Civil Aviation Authority of the Bahamas as a Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas, its functions and composition and for matters connected therewith, be read a second time and committed.
Second. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. May I have the bill? It's been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to provide for the continuation of the Civil Aviation Authority of the Bahamas as the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas, its functions and composition, and for matters connected thereto, be read a second time and committed. As many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a second time. Further second readings.
There are no further second readings, Madam President. I now beg leave to move that. There are no further second readings, Madam President. I now beg leave to move that the Senate do now resolve itself into a committee of the whole with Senator the Honorable Sharon Anna Faye Ferguson Knowles in the chair, if I may obtain a second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Senate do now resolve itself into a committee of the whole with Senator Anna Faye Knowles in the chair. As many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The Senate will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole.
Do you have the script for that? Share the script. David, do you have the script? Committee? Thanks. What's that? No, I mean the script, the words she has to say. Oh, it is a move the second. You don't have that? Okay, do you have it?
I guess.
Okay, I'll no, you people. Okay. Okay, Quasi, I'm going to need you to read these amendments for me. Okay. Mr. Clark, can I have a copy of the amendment so that I can be guided which sections to move? I pass it to the minister. Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to civil aviation bill. Civil aviation bill is the bill that is it's the one area. I'm going to go through that bill first. That's the one I move first too. Okay, thank you. Okay, Madam President, I beg leave to move for the adoption that the long title of the bill be agreed, if I may obtain a seconder.
It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those contrary? Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I now beg leave to move that the short title of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clauses 2 through 4 be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 2 to 4 be agreed. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move that clause 5 of the bill be agreed. Madam Chair, you understand.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 5 of the bill be agreed. As many?
Thank you very much, Madam.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I wish to move beg leave to move the following amendment to clause 5. In subsection 2, insert the word Bahamas after the word authority. If I may have a second.
Rise to second, Madam Chair.
It has been moved and seconded that clause be amended to be agreed to. To be agreed as amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I now beg leave to move that clauses 6 through 21 be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 6 through 21 be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. That clause 6 through 21 has been agreed.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. I now beg leave to move that clause 22 of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 22 be agreed. As many?
Aye.
I wish to move the following amendment to clause 22. In subsection 4, delete the word appeal and substitute the words object to.
Right, second, Madam.
It has been moved that clause 22 be amended to read. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam President. I now beg leave to move that clauses 23 to 25 be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 22 to 23 to 25 be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Madam President, I now beg leave to move that clause 26 of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 26, be agreed. As many?
Madam Chair, I rise to move the following amendment to clause 26 in. Renumber the last appearing subsection 4 as subsection 5.
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 26 be amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move that clause 27 of the bill be accepted.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 27 of the bill be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clause 28 of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a seconder.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 28 of the bill be agreed. As many?
Aye. No. Yes.
Madam Chair, I wish to move the following amendment to clause 28 in the definition of person directly affected. A, delete the words error, reference source not found, and substitute the number 44. And B, delete the words appeal or objection and substitute the words object or appeal.
Second.
It has been moved that 28 be amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clause 30 of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a second. Wait, have I missed 29? Oh, sorry. Clause 29 of the bill be agreed. If I may.
It's been moved and seconded that 29 be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clause 30 of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 30 of the bill be moved. Agreed. As many? As many?
I wish to move the following amendment to clause 30 in subsection 4. A, delete the words appeal against and substitute the words object to. And B, delete the words section 33 and substitute the words section 34. If I may have a second.
Madam Chair, rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 30 of the bill be amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clause 31 of the bill be amended.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 31 of the bill be approved. Be agreed. As many?
Madam Chair, I wish to move the following amendment to clause 31. In subsection 4, delete the word appeal and substitute the words object to. If I may have a second.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Clause 31 be agreed as amended. As many?
Aye.
Those contrary? Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clause 32 of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a seconder.
It's been moved and seconded that clause 32 of the bill be agreed. As many?
Madam Chair, I wish to move the following amendment to clause 32. In subsection 4, delete the word appeal and substitute the words object to.
Chair, second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 32 be agreed as amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move the clause 33 of the bill be amended. Be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 33 be agreed. As many?
Aye. No, sorry.
I wish to move, Madam Chair, the following amendment to clause 33. In subsection 2C, delete the number 2E, sorry. Wow. Yes, 2E. Thank you. I gotta do this. Delete the number 34 and substitute the number 44. If I may have a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 33 be agreed as amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clause 34 of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 34 be agreed as
Madam Chair, I wish to move the following amendment to clause 34. In subsection 1, delete the word appeal and substitute the words object to. If I may get a second.
Madam Chair, right, a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 34 be agreed as amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clauses 35 to 44 be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that 35 clauses 35 through 44 be agreed. As many? Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clause 45 of the... Huh? Okay. I beg leave to move the clause 45 of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 45 of the bill be agreed. As many?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish to move the following amendment to clause 45 in subsection 2E2. Delete the word time and substitute the word fine. If I may receive a second.
Corrected. Madam Chair, right.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 45 be agreed as amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move that clauses 46 through 59 of the agreement of the bill be agreed. 46 through 59. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 46 through 59 be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. That clause 46 through 59 has been agreed.
Okay. I'm just marking up the copy so the record is clear. Madam Chair, I beg leave now to move that clause 60 of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a seconder.
It has been moved and second that clause 60 of the bill be agreed. As many? Hold on. Chair recognizes.
Madam Chair, I wish to move the following amendment to clause 60. In paragraph D, delete the words number of 1976 and substitute the words SI number 105 of 1976. If I may get a second.
It has been moved and second that clause 60 be agreed as amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, thank you. Madam. Chair, I move that the bill in its entirety be agreed. There's no schedules. I was just double checking. Yeah. Entirety and of them. Okay, I move that the bill in its entirety as amended be agreed. If I'm
It has been moved and second that the bills in its entirety as amended be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The ayes have it that the bill in its entirety as amended is agreed.
Okay. Thank you. Leave it over to you. No, I need to have the back actually to clear read. So, okay, Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move that the long title of a bill to establish a separate Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority with its functions and composition be agreed. And one second. I move that it be agreed, the long title. No, it's a long title. The short title is after is one. Yeah.
It has been moved and seconded that a long title of the bill be agreed. As many? Right? Chair.
Chair, I wish to move the following amendment to the long title. After the word bill, insert the words for an act. If I may get a second.
No, you can't second. Someone else has a second.
Right, the second.
Right. That is moving.
It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill has been, as amended, has been agreed. Be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The long title of the bill as amended is agreed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. All right. Okay. Madam Chair, I move the clause 2 of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 2 of the bill be agreed. As many? Chair recognizes Senator Thompson.
Madam Chair, I wish to move the following amendments to clause 2 under the definition CAAB. We wish to replace the numbers 2020 with the numbers 2021. In addition, under the definition Civil Aviation Act, we wish to remove the numbers 2020 and replace them with 2021. If I may receive a second.
It has been moved and seconded that clause 2 be agreed as amended. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move that clauses 3 through. One second. This is 23 through 28 of the bill be agreed. 3 through 28 of the bill.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 3 through 28 be agreed. As many?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that the schedule to the bill, pendant to Section 8 or Clause 8 of the bill, be agreed.
It's been moved and seconded that the schedule, be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Give us a further, further, I guess not. Okay. Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas. Yeah, Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas is the next one. Madam Chair? No, we've done that. We've done the Air Navigation Services Authority. We just finished that. We did the motion on a bill for an act here, and then we amended the dates on the CAAB and the Civil Aviation Authority in Section 2. That's finished. The remaining bill is the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas Bill 2021. Oh, even not yet? Okay. I move the bill in its entirety be agreed.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it that the bill in its entirety has been agreed. Any further comments?
Yes. Yes, I now beg leave to move that the Senate do agree the long title of a bill for an act provide for the continuation of the Civil Aviation Authority of the Bahamas as the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas, its functions and composition for matters connected thereto. Let me attain a second.
It has been moved and second that the long title of the Civil Aviation Bill Bahamas 2020 be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. That the long title is agreed.
Thank you. Madam President, I beg leave now to move that the short title of the bill be agreed.
It's been moved and second that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it that the short title of the bill has been agreed.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move. Yes, Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas, but I have okay. I beg leave to move that the clauses 3 through 22 be agreed of the bill.
It has been moved and second that the clauses 3 through 22 be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it that clauses 3 to 22 has been agreed.
Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move that the schedule to the bill pending to clause 13 of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and second that clause that the schedule be agreed. As many? Those opposed? The ayes have it that the schedule is agreed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move that the bill in its entirety be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many? As those opposed?
It should be 3 to 32, correct? Should be 3 to 32.
3 to 2.
What are you talking about? Civil Aviation Authority Bill. This is Civil Aviation Authority Bill. I said 3, 2, and I went to the back here of what I have. 22. Yeah, this is what I have here. Oh, 32. Bad eyesight. Okay. May we go back on the model for the timeline? Yeah. Yeah. I want to say Madam Chairman, the clauses 3 to 32 of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 3 to 32 be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it that clauses 3 to 32 has been agreed.
So let's go. We now move, Madam President, that the schedule to the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the schedule be agreed. As many? Those opposed? The ayes have it that the schedule to the bill is agreed.
Madam President, I now move that the bill in its entirety, no amendments in this, be agreed. Okay, thank you.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it that the bill is in its entirety be agreed.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I now beg leave to move that Madam President do now resume her chair. Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It has moved and second that that Madam President resume the chair. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam, the ayes have it that Madam President resumes the chair.
Bills? Making amendments there too. Okay.
Madam President, I beg to report that the committee has examined the bills in its entirety and with the necessary amendments, it has been agreed. The bills without one bill with the necessary amendment and the others in its entirety without has been agreed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senators, it's been reported that the bills, with the exception, the bills, one of which was amended, have been agreed. We'll move on then to third readings. Third readings and passage of bills.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I now beg leave to move for the third reading and passage, thank you, of the Civil Aviation Bill 2021, if I may obtain a seconder.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to provide for the continuation of the civil aviation.
Yes, Civil Aviation Bill, the third reading.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to repeal and replace the Civil Aviation Act 2016 to modernize the regulation of civil aviation in the Bahamas in accordance with the Chicago Convention and for connected purposes be read a third time and passed. As many as are in favor, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a third time. Order that the bill do now pass and the title thereof declared to be the Civil Aviation Bill 2021. The Civil Aviation Act 2021. My apologies. Further third readings.
Thank you, Madam President. I now beg leave to move for the third reading and passage of the Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority Bill 2021. If I may obtain a second. Got it? It's right there.
It's been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to establish a separate Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority with its functions and composition be read a third time and passed. As many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a third time.
To establish a separate Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority with its functions and composition.
Order that the bill do now pass and the title thereof declared to be Bahamas Air Navigation Services Authority Bill 2021. For the third readings.
Madam President, I now beg leave to move for the third reading and passage of the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas Bill 2021. If I may obtain a second. I beg leave to move for the third reading and passage of the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas Bill 2021. If I may obtain a seconder.
It's been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to provide for the continuation of the Civil Aviation Authority of the Bahamas as the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas, its function and composition, and for matters connected thereto, be read a third time and passed. As many as are in favor, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a third time.
Provide for the continuation of the Civil Aviation Authority of the Bahamas as the Civil Aviation Authority Bahamas, its functions, and for composition for matters connected.
Order of the bill be now passed and the title thereof declared to be Civil Aviation Authority Act 2021. For the third reading.
There are no further third readings and passages today, Madam President.
Okay, then we will move on. Consideration of House amendments,
None.
resolutions, discharge of select committees, notices for future meetings.
Language is very elegant this morning. Say, throw some alcohol on it. I want Hennessy, though. Yeah, I'd like to renew all notices standing in the name of the opposition, please. And Attorney General, I just want to remind you of your commitment to find out about the water in McCann's and Miller's, why they jump over them two people. Okay, and all right. Vouchers not being accepted in Andros now. I got a report just a few minutes ago. People, your government vouchers that you're issuing? Yes, right. Yeah.
Thank you. Governance, if I may say, first of all, governance can be fraught with all sorts of minor but important issues to the individuals. So thank you for the information. No, I'm not dealing with that. I was dealing with the issue of the vouchers, and there may be some technical glitch which can easily be addressed in terms of the vouchers. So I will send the message up or across to a colleague and ask them to look into it. This would be social services. It may well be some issue of payment, but it may well not be. It may be something else. So we'll find out. With regard to McCann's, I'll certainly look into it. Water is the staff of life, as they say. Okay? Okay. Madam President, I would now wish to renew all items on the agenda in the name of the government and give notice that the Senate on its rising today will adjourn sine die. Since we are not entirely sure what the House will be doing. And so we'll get back. If the House determines to pass some legislation, we should know that early in the week. We'll give notice to all senators and come back on Thursday. But rather than to guess about it, we'll just adjourn sine die. Thank you. Sorry. May I have a colleague, Mr. State Finance, yes, to give some important public announcements.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Order in the court, order in the court.
Madam President, I unfortunately came late and was unable to get the minister's communication. But I wish to inform the public of a significant milestone that the government has achieved through its digital transformation unit. Members of the Senate and I think members of the public would have heard us talk about a new platform, a new digital platform that the government was creating. And this new digital platform is based on the Estonia model. The Estonia, and they call it in Estonia the X-Road digital platform. And what makes this platform different from other ones is that it is a single government platform that connects all other government agencies to the platform, and it allows information to move from agency to agency digitally without you having to ask the public to provide information to each agency. Let me give you an example. Every agency now asks you, or most agencies now ask you to, in order to apply for a service, it asks you for produce your national insurance number to access that service. So you will have to take your national insurance card and give each agency your national insurance number. Some also ask you for your passport. So you would have to take your passport and access each service, and in some cases physically carry your passport to each of these agencies there. And if you would have heard me speak about the ability where these government agencies should be able to pass the information on from agency to agency without you having to physically come to every agency and provide evidence of who you are. The government should know who you are. So, Madam President, we set on to build or create a model of this platform. And for the last few months, we have been piloting this platform with public servants, and we have been piloting the platform with 4 services. So obviously, we are not saying that all services are going to be online at one time, and we are not saying that you won't have to present your passport or present your national insurance to all agencies. We're starting where we built the platform, and we're starting with 4, what we call 4 urgent services. So that was being piloted to the public servants for the last few months. As of yesterday, that platform has gone live, and the public now has access to that platform. So as of yesterday, the 4 services are being able to apply for your driver's license online, which means you can go to the site, you can apply. All you would need to do is register, and by registering, the only information you need to put in is your national insurance number. And once you put in your and this is the key to it. Once you put in your national insurance number, the platform then communicates with the road traffic. So it communicates with national insurance, and then it communicates with road traffic. And then in the platform, it then pulls up your old driver's license number. So all you would need, it then identifies your national insurance number with your driver's license number. It will automatically be pulled up. All you need to do is click to say, I want to renew. You also have the ability to pay online. And so you pay for it online, and then it sends you an email saying that you can now come and collect your renewed driver's license. And imagine this is just the start, and this is why we believe it's so significant, because it is just the start of what we can do with this platform. And we can go ahead and put in place additional services. So we have the marriage certificate, we have the birth certificate where you can apply, pay for it, get a copy, and you do not have to stand in the long line. In fact, they have a separate location and a separate line that you now can go to be able to collect those items that you access on the platform. And so, Madam President, we are inviting the public, and it is again a pilot that we are now releasing. So we want to hear from you. We want the public to go ahead and test it out. We want to hear what your experiences are. It continues to be a work in progress, so we are continuing to build and improve on it. But we want to hear from the public who have used it. Tell us about your experience. If we need to tweak it, we will. If we need to adjust it, we will. One of the other areas we are excited about is also being able to pay for your post office box online, because we've seen the tremendous lines that are at the post office just to go ahead and renew your payment for a post office box. Again, this then will be done. That will be one of our next ones where it's online. And one of the ones, again, that I'm very excited about is the police certificate, to where you are going to be able to pay for your police certificate online, put in the details, and then the police will just send you an email saying it's ready. You come collect it at such and such a time, and then you can then go at your convenience to pick it up. Madam President, this is the way forward for us. We've seen what it has done for the passport office, to where we have done away with renewing of passports and the long lines that it took to renew your e-passport and the amount of time that it took to renew your e-passport. It now takes probably about 20 minutes to fill out the form online. You pay for it, and within the time limit they have now is within about 14 days. You are now getting back a response to where you can go and pick up your renewed e-passport. So, Madam President, this again is a milestone in terms of being able to put into effect, put to the public this interoperable platform, again, which is modeled after the Estonia model. So thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Thompson. Orders for clerk, adjournment. Senator.
Thank you, Madam President. As for Charlotte, I now move that the Senate on its rising be adjourned sine die, if I may obtain a second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Senate on its rising adjourn sine die. As many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. The Senate on its rising will adjourn sine die.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that the Senate be now adjourned.
The Senate stands adjourned.